All right, guys, I think we're in, guys.
Yeah.
Let's go on.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, depending on what part of the planet you're from. I want to turn this over to Mr. Scott Higgins, who's coming to us live from Hawaii. And first and foremost, sir, I want to say that it's kind of interesting because I've never personally met you before. But I always love it when someone's reputation precedes them, and all of a sudden I'm here. Oh my God, he's like a legend. So I think that's pretty cool, right? I would like to turn it over to Mr. Scott Higgins, living legend in American Kempo, from Hawaii, which I just think it's awesome, you know. So, sir, it is all yours. And we will be back with you in 25 minutes. Okay? Let's give him a hand, folks.
Okay.
Mr. Hayes, all the best.
How's the sound, guys? Sound okay?
Yep, we can hear you fine.
It's good to be here, guys. I'd like to introduce my wife, Sophie. There's the Harmses over there. You know those guys. Thanks for being here. And I don't know about a living legend, but you know, I was lucky enough to spend some time at Ed Parker's studio. You know, I think that's, and I was around there at a time when he was still alive and he was still teaching and all that. And there were a lot of guys, you know, that came through that West LA school. You know, I started my Kempo in 1971, and that guy Bill Ryosaki had a school in North Hollywood, and he did Hawaiian Kempo, and who incidentally that same school was the Cobra Kai school in the movie.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that was pretty cool. But I got in a fight in school, and it didn't go as well as I had hoped. And so that day I went over there and I started taking some karate, you know. But it was 10 years later. I did a lot of other stuff, but then, you know, at least 10 years later, until I found Ed Parker, and I was up in Oxnard doing Tracy's Kempo, which a lot of us do. This Tracy's very popular. And so I was up there training, and I think I was a green belt at the time. And I think Barbara Hale was she trained up there also, and but she was like a brown belt, and she started talking about this Ed Parker's Kempo, and going down there, and I was wondering, you know, what's this Ed Parker business about, you know? So I went down there and I walked into the studio, and I think it was Muhammad. He was a brown belt at a time, and he was doing some techniques and on the mat, you know. I think it was showing hair that I saw, you know, he's dropping back, wow, you know. I was looking at that and I go, oh man, this is the real thing, you know. And you know, there's a lot of people. It's like anything, you know. There's a lot of good mechanics, you know, and there's a lot of bad mechanics, you know. And I think if you just take the time, you know, so. You know, the thing really the thing about martial arts with me is the honesty about it. You know, that you can say what you will, but when you step on the mat, it's going to be, you know, obvious right when you step on what your ability is. You know, so for me, I mean, there was sort of purity in that. You know, that I could just be myself. You know, and improve myself. You know, so, but. There were a lot of guys, you know. Larry Tatum was the manager at the time. Parker was coming in and out of the school. He would teach class. Lots of incredible martial artists, you know, came through. Just kind of would just pop in, you know, and do class. And, you know, there was a guy, like one of Muhammad's friends. He used to hang out outside. And I keep telling him, saying, come on in. You know, like the Persian guys, you know, a lot of those guys really talented, and these other guys, I mean, they're really sharp. But there was this one cat that was outside, and he never came in. I said, how come you don't come in? He says, oh, I know enough. And I said, what do you know? He said, you know, he knew 5 swords, shielding hammer, and snapping twig. just those three techniques, and he would put those things together, in all kinds of ways, and that's all he needed, but I mean, that was an interesting for me, because so it wasn't just like this technique, you do it for this and this technique for that. Understood that you could take these things apart, move them around, change the weapon, change the target, or both at any point, depending on the situation. And Mr. Parker used to say that all the time, that it's not about the technique. He taught technique to explain and expose us to the principles that are involved in all of these things. So how you do it, that's your style, and nobody imitated anybody. We all had our own style, and that was very important, that you develop yourself, and so shall I do a little demonstration? I just want to see some Kempo. All right. So we have Starblock, right? You guys know Starblock. It's this. One of the things that I found really interesting, that everything has a purpose. Everything has a purpose, like the upward block. The upward block, if she comes over, you can use it as a block. Or if she grabs, you can use the same thing as a break, right? Or you can use it by itself, coming in as a strike. So all these things have purposes, If you wanted to, if she said she went over maybe with a left, and you're doing Starblock, and she comes in here and then out and down, okay? Or if she comes over, you can catch her with the hammer en route to this, right? And then as he shoots this, you can come back, catch the eye as you're coming back to this, and then you go right back into the downward block. The downward block doesn't have to be the downward block. It can be a downward strike. And that's the other thing. If you read the manuals, the original in the Red Book, these were all strikes, inward strike, outward strike, because that's what he's doing. And any of these things, when they're coming in, it's not an inward block, it's a strike. Pow, right? You're trying to break the arm. So you got to understand where Parker came from. It came from Kalihi, which was a bad part of Honolulu. And in Hawaii, the people are really big and they're real thick. So whatever you do, it has to be decisive. It can't be, you have to do it, as hard and as fast as you can, because these guys are so big, And, the other thing is, the last place you want to be is on the ground, looking up at a couple of liquored up Samoans, So that's why we stand up. Mostly we try to stand up. I've been to the ground before, but, I've had guys try to take me to the ground, and it's not as easy to go to the ground if you don't want to. It's not that easy to take a guy down if he doesn't want to go, especially if he has good footwork, So anyway, so those are just some of the things. One thing he exposed us to is the universal pattern, universal pattern. He talked about a hook punch and a roundhouse, and always asked us, you know the difference between a hook and a roundhouse, and I learned that. So the roundhouse, as we know, hits on the upside of the circle. The hook hits from the top of the circle down. Okay. All right. So one hits on the upside of the circle, the other one hits on the downside of the circle. And if you look at that in our technique, if we had gathering clouds, we have this technique. So what's happening is you're shooting on this plane here, you're shooting on the upside. Here we have another technique for a push. This is repeating mace. Yeah. So now we're hitting on the apex of the circle coming back. So it's coming back this way. All right. So these are the concepts and things that he would share with us. And you start thinking about these things. How do they apply? In what technique and what situation? We have raining claw, his technique raining claw, where she comes in an uppercut. We're coming down. and we do this, but then we often reverse it. Okay, so you have the two things is opposite and reverse. So now we're doing reversing the technique. Okay, all right. We have a part of these things is people get caught up in like 5 swords. They do 5 swords. She punches, boom. We have all this. And this all looks good, but the problem is, if she says she does it on me, and I'm going to check that hand. So what do you do? You've got to find a way around that thing, okay? Because you don't want to just guarantee that this is going to work for you. If it doesn't, you've got to do something else, okay? So if I come in and I try to do this, she catches me, okay? I have an obstruction. Now, I don't want to necessarily drop back and then start all over here, punch me on the other side here, right? So you've got to go, whatever the thing, I can either get rid of it and continue. If the pressure is going too far, I can come up, I can take that, I can still hit, see, right? Or I can go maybe low and then back up. Okay, so you want to find ways around those obstructions. And that's one thing a lot of people don't do. They don't really try to figure out, what's going to happen. We have another technique, dance of death. So if she shoots a punch, I'm going to try to go low. Okay. Her hand, most guys are like this. So if this hand is here, she's punching with this hand is up in here. I see the target is here or here. Okay. But in this situation, so even though it's there at that moment, it's simply going to drop because she sees me coming. So what am I going to do? Right. So I try to catch in it. Now I'm stuck. Okay. Again, I'm not really stuck. Okay. I can move off. I can catch it and go up to high, then back down. Okay. So you want to try to find these. I can go right into shielding mace. Okay. That's a technique we know, right? Okay. There's also the orbit that you can take. So if I try to do, we have a technique called sleeper, right? She shoots the punch, I block, and I try to go up. Now, if I see that her hand is going to be there, I'm already here. I'm already coming into it. Okay, so I have to change that orbit en route. So what I do, this is a circular action, but what I'm going to do is constrict it. So you can take the circle, you can expand it, or you can contract it. That if we do like gathering clouds, this is sort of an expansion. And then you can, or rather a contraction. This is like the ice skater. When they spin around, they have their hands out. And then as they bring their hands in, they go faster, yeah? So this is a lot of that. You start with a bigger circle, and then you contract the circle, and it makes it, and so you can make it faster. And then what do? We expand it again. Okay, so you're contracting these circles and expanding these circles, depending on the situation, yeah? So if I come in and try to do sleeper, I try to shoot that up by making this big circle, but then I see this hand coming up to check, so I will contract it and go into taming the mace, yeah? Does that make sense? There are a lot of these concepts and a lot of these principles that, you really have to explore. You have to take a technique and really look at it, and after a while, it'll sort of take on a life of its own. We also have grafting. Needs a lot of those things that putting two techniques or part of one technique with another, maybe the ending of something and then the beginning of another. So it kind of depending on the situation, if she's coming in and doing a double push, but then she's coming in further, so I haven't really done anything. I want to try to catch this thing, but maybe it's a bigger guy. See, and I don't want to, we do these techniques that we know it's we're going to chop, and so forth. But sometimes there's a lot of fat. They have a lot of blubber, some guys do. So I really can't use that technique, but I could grab and turn into another technique. So as they're coming in this way, right? So I'm going to grab, and you put the weight on this foot as you strike, right? And you down they go. So these are things, you have to alter your technique. So it's not just this, not just 5 swords, not just shielding hammer. These are things these are tools to use. And that's what Kempo is really about. It's finding the right tool for the right job. You'll see a lot of the same motion throughout the system. If we do a technique like circling the horizon, so when she shoots up parries, you come in. That's kind of an interesting one too, because I did this on Mr. Parker once. He goes, who knows shielding or circling the horizon? I go, I do. He's just got to come up. So I did it to him, and what he did, it was originally taught to a vertical punch to the temple, but he took my hand and he turned it this way, and he put it underneath the cheek, and he said, "What you have here is called a fitting strike. A fitting strike, fitting the weapon to the target." See. Now that's what he used to do. That's how he used to teach. That he wouldn't completely change the technique or rearrange and all this. He would just simply tweak it or give you an idea that now I want to try to fit my weapons to the target. And if you look how the hands can fit into the body in these different ways, these things, it's a very interesting concept that I'd never heard before. Okay, here, the arms. Hey, you guys, here's a technique for you. Do this one. So you're going to shoot a right punch. You're going to step up. You're going to hammer it. She shoots the left. You're going to block it, but heel palm. Yeah. You're going to drop down immediately. You catch him with the elbow. Okay. And right from here, this is going to go down the front. As you go down the front, you catch him with the chop with the other hand. And then right back into the groin. Okay. So if you do this technique, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So that's a nice little technique. There's another one. He shoots a punch. You're going to parry it and punch here. Now, got to remember, if she's in her environment range position, what's on you, in you, or around you, right at the time. Range. What is your range? Are you out here? Are you in here? Are you in here? Okay. Position. What is your position? What is their position? Right foot forward. Is their right foot forward? Left foot forward? If their right foot is forward, what could that tell you? It could tell you maybe they're gonna jab with the right hand. Maybe they're left-handed, so they jab with the right, do a cross with the left. If they switch, left foot is forward. Many times the left jab will come, then the right cross. You gotta always just guarantee. Just always think that the right is always coming. It's always coming. The other hand is always coming. So when she shoots that, I'm going to try to go to the outside. It could go to the inside, but that always brings this into play. So my preferred method is to get off and away from that hand. But I know this is going to come anyway, right? So I try to catch him here. All right. And what's going to happen? This hand is going to retract, and then the other hand is going to come in. So I'm going to catch this, and I go right into, let's go this way. So she shoots this the left, so I catch him. I catch it with the rib shot here. The hand retracts. This guy is going to come back, so my hands are always in play. I block here, and I go right into this technique here, right? Cross comes. So this is just like shield and mace, yeah? but it's on the left side. See? And then the heel palm can come, catch him with the elbow and hammer. Okay. So again, you're putting these things together, you know, play with them, take them apart, try different scenarios. You know, if I try to, she shoots her, say shoots her right, I can do, again, I can come off and really do anything at any point. And it's a lot like jiu-jitsu. It's like what Don was saying today, you know, that's how I interpret or understand Kempo. I understand it in a jiu-jitsu type of way because I'm not stuck. If I do it, say I do a triggered salute, but she checks me. Okay, so what am I going to do? I have to find a way. You have to find a way out, and you have to test everything. You test everything. You don't take it for granted just because I say something, your instructor says something, some guy on the street says something. You test it all. Make sure that it works.
That thing about the hands having eyes, I was just thinking about that, you know, when you try to test it, you know, to use that kind of idea that what can it see, you know, what can the feet see, what can the hands see? Yeah.
So it's a kind of a drill that we do that I kind of like to do. It's like 2-man set, but it's just a random thing. So if we start out, I'm going to shoot a punch, you know, not really fast, just she's going to do something, she's going to block it and do something and then counter me. So as she counters me, I'm going to block and I'm going to counter her. She's going to block and then counter. I'm going to block and then I counter. And she blocks and counters. Block and counter. So what this does, you know, there's a lot of guys that talk about these. There's like multiple points of origin, man. You know, there's a lot. At any time, you always have a place to go. And I think it's positional recognition, for lack of a better word. But, you know, really all that means is it's multiple points of origin, that you always have a place to go. And you have to find that. You can't just guarantee on this technique. All these techniques teach concepts, they teach principles. And you need to learn all that, you know, you got to learn all that. You got to learn how to, you know, put things together different ways and everything to make things. But then you start, you know, if you got to learn how to make a chocolate cake, you know, the ingredients, the eggs, the milk, butter, whatever it is. Okay, you know how to make that. You can make it just like this guy made it. But then I want to make it a little bit differently. Okay, so you start learning how to use those other ingredients. Now you start incorporating other things into it and making it your own. And that's really what it is. You know, so you don't want to be a robot. You know, Parker was really adamant about that. He says, don't be a robot, man. You know, he says, you be creative. You develop your own style. Don't imitate somebody else. You know, you want to discover who you are.
Tailor it to the person.
So you tailor it, yeah. And again, just like that, Don was saying, you know, it's like you have to tailor these things to yourself and what you can do and what you can't do, you know.
Okay, sir, that was perfect timing. That was it. The bell just rang. So I'm going to ask everybody to unmute their mics. Does anybody have any questions? Ben, did you have a question?
No, I'm good. What I was going to say from my perspective, that was very good, Scott.
So, real quick, if you don't mind me just pointing something out. But I went through this myself a little bit, and you kind of touched on it. And that is one of the things I hear from a lot of people that are just starting out in Kempo or whatever. And then when they start doing it for a little while and they look at the curriculum, they see their first thought is, oh my God, like this is just so unrealistic. It's so impractical, because their mindset is that, oh, we got 160 self-defenses, and the reality of it all is that that I'll never, have the luxury of time to be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat, so to speak, in a heat of battle and be able to, get the right self-defense, the right attack and all that. And over time, I mean, obviously now we all understand that that's not the purpose of Kempo, and that's really not what it's all about. But you actually touched on this. I had a student one time, she was going for a green belt test. And we have a portion of our test where they're required to do 12 self-defenses from Kempo. The way that we were taught, according to the syllabus, and it was, they had to be, accurate. And then we also had a different part of this section of the test, which we just called freestyle, which means that individual would be attacked, but they didn't know what the attack was going to be. And so this was a real eye opener for me. This girl, she was an adult, but she used thrusting salute for about 6 different attacks. And at that moment in time, like, I'm at a point where I'm thinking, like, I got a pretty good idea where I'm going with all this. But when she did that opened my eyes, because it was just like what you just said. It's like, you try to find, it's not necessarily the self-defense, it's what's going on. And she used thrusting salute for a left kick, a right kick. She used it for a straight left or right punch. She used it for a right roundhouse punch. She even used it for a left roundhouse punch. And the only thing she did different when that left roundhouse punch was coming at her was she added a bob and weave into it. That was it. Anything else, all she did was just either change the tool a little bit or pick a different target. Other than that,
Yeah.
I mean, it was spot on. I mean, it was incredible. So I thought that was really interesting, because I think when we look at the family grouping and all the self-defenses, sometimes I think one of the things I've kind of learned since then is to kind of convey to my students, as you're going up the ranks, as you're learning all these self-defenses, until you get to a point where it does become natural or freestyle, don't worry about memorizing the movements, but just take a few here and there. And so I appreciate what you were saying with regards to that, because that's like one of the biggest things I hear when it comes to Kempo is like, why are we learning all these self-defenses? And they don't get the fact that they're just ideas initially. So I just wanted to share that. Sorry, it didn't take too much time, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what, I mean, I heard that all the time. Parker would come in and he'd be teaching and be the same thing. It's concepts and principles, don't get caught up in the, in sequence. It's not about sequence. It's never been about sequence.
Yeah.
It's never been about sequence. It's the menu. All those techniques, the techniques that we learned, that's the menu. It's not the meal. It's you're caught up. People get caught up, and you see these guys all doing 5 swords all the time, or dance of death, or backbreaker. You see them, and make something up. Be creative. Break the arm, come around and do something else. Go to a different target. Use a different weapon. Expand your toolbox. If you just do the same technique over and over, you're not expanding yourself. You're replicating something you learned as an orange belt or as a purple belt or a blue belt. I see guys that, a lot of rank, and they're still doing exactly the same thing instead of, creating something. And that's how, that's where you have to look within yourself and find that creativity. Parker was incredibly creative.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Juan.
Yes, I have a question. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Higgins for his class. And I want to know his opinion about the freestyle techniques of Kempo, like B1A, B1, B2A, B2B, those kind of techniques that have code names. And if have the chance anytime to work those with Mr. Parker.
Oh yeah. All the time. Parker, Parker was in the studio all the time. I was over I was in Santa Monica school, and I was over there when Jeff came my crew was Brian, Tony, Mohammed, Nasser, Jeff came, and then we started. And I was working techniques in the private room, and Jeff would come over and say, "What are you doing there?" And I'd show him what I know, and we'd work techniques and all that, so we all did that, and then, but when you got to the studio, you didn't just come and put your gi on and sit down. We were always freestyling, we were always fighting. Fighting was the number one thing. I fought every single day for years, every single day. I was there 4 or 5 hours a day, 6 days a week for, 5-6 years. And I fought every single day, all the time. I was fighting guys like Lex Sensenbrenner. He was 6'6", 240 pounds. And, all these guys, John Corrigan was just incredible. You watch these guys do this technique, back then it was like, you look at it, it was such determination to excel and to mediocrity seems to be the norm these days. It seems, that people don't really want to put out the effort in that, and they don't go over and over and over and over these we would go over these techniques over and over and over and fine tune all that, fine tune that movement, so you have that, so it becomes ingrained into you, this Kempo movement. It's very unique, I think, compared to a lot of other, I've done a lot of other things, but as far as B1A, I love that, and I've used it on the street. You have a guy, you're in this situation, they got the guard up. So you come up, you grab that hand, right? And you catch him with this one, or you catch him with that one, okay? And this is a great technique. The trick is to close the gap. Anybody can do anything from this point, but they're not ever like that. They're out here. They don't want to get hit either. They're like, they're all, you watch guys, they're out here and they're trying to hit from out here, But so you've got to close the gap. That's where your footwork comes in. Footwork's so important. You got to be able to, launch off of that, right? But if you do that, maybe they do. And that's kind of a good question, because this is, where does your freestyle end and your technique begin? And that's a good question. That if I get into this position, they could maybe check me, or maybe they just get their head out of the way, so I can't reach them anyway. But I do have a hand on them. So what can I do? You go right into maybe this is, what do we call it? Entangled wing. Okay, so you have that. You try to go, you drop this thing down. If you drop it down, that's going to cancel this other hand. See, so you're here, they're going to be trying to get away, or maybe they're going to punch you. So you still have some control here.
Now I would go.
Yeah, but then if they do that, then you can cancel their height, all that stuff. Or you try to do this, but maybe this doesn't work. So what do? Oh, I can't go this way. So you go the other way. So that's where your technique comes in. You can start in these things, and if it doesn't work, you try to do this. If that doesn't work, go the other way, right? See?
Excellent, sir. Thank you very much.
Anybody else got any questions?
It's not so question, more just a statement and an observation, and again, saying thank you to Mr. Higgins, to Scott, to your wife, just your presentation. Obviously, we've been back a few times in the past. Every single time I've experienced your knowledge and what you put across. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Going back to what was being said there, every martial artist gets to a point where they're so focused, I feel, on that perfection of the system. And the system is there as that tool, but can also be a hindrance to a certain degree, because we focus so much on trying to perfect that technique, that form, that set, that strike, as opposed to kind of going, literally, you've done that. If you enter that first one, what if that checking hand comes up? Where can I go from there? Where can I now apply my point of origin, my principles, my angle changes, my entries, and different things? And every single time I meet with you, connect with you, and train under you, those light bulb moments go off where you go, hang on, I have kind of been a little bit tunnel vision staying here on this. At what point do I need to kind of revert back and start to reintroduce or take a different perspective? You know, so massive respect and absolute thanks for again shedding your knowledge and lights on so many different bits that were either being missed or they've been kind of buried underneath repetition of things that I've been focusing on as opposed to seeing, you know, focusing on those other dynamics. So awesome, brilliant, and thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very
That's a good point there, Steve. You know, it's Parker used to talk about the 3 points of view, you know, that it's your view looking at your opponent, there's your opponent's view looking at you, and then there's this guy across the street looking at both of you. But there's also, we talk about the weapons point of view. You know, your weapons have a point of view that, you know, what can I hit from this, if my hand is this, what does this thing see? It sees this, it sees this, it sees this. What does my foot see? My foot can be that. My foot can see the knee, could see the groin, right? So your weapons have, you know, have a point of view here. Now, if this guy is on top, I know I can change it, right? So you kind of look at that. It's kind of a, you know, it's kind of a funny way to look at it, but they do, you know, where it can help you see where you can go. If you're just looking at this point of view from my eyes, I can only see so many things. But if I use my toes and they have a point of view, what can they see? Where can they go?
That's pretty cool.
See?
Yeah, and the knee also.
Yeah, the knee, different parts of your body, you know.
I like that idea. I like that. I like that.
Can I take from that, Joe?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, after you don't want me to ask anything, you're trying to buy me?
I was just joking.
Sorry for the joke, but like Juan says, thanks for the opportunity to be with a legend like Master Higgins. And I would like to take from that 4 point of view. I have read about that in the memorial book of Ed Parker. From what I know, the 4 point of view, the weapons point of view, is something that the other 3 point of view doesn't see. You cannot see that, the opponent cannot see that, and someone in the 3rd point of view doesn't see. So it's a kind of perception. It's a kind of perception, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. In a previous interview you did with, you talk about the alternative mazes and circle and horizon and fitting weapons. You said something like alternative mazes have a vertical punch in alternative maze, and that is because that's the way the punch fits the target. When you rotate the punch in circle and horizon, that fits the cheek bone. But going to general is a sensation, maybe just me, like Master Parker was trying to fit not only the weapons to target, but fitting the art to students. So that is, for me, the impression of the fitting the art to the student, or fitting the weapon to the target, or tailoring the art of Kempo. That was, and this is the question, that was in mind of Ed Parker from the beginning, from when you meet him, or that was after 18, or at the end of his approach, or refining the art?
See, he was refining it from the beginning. When he started in the 50s, there was a, you know, his exploration into all of that started, you know, actually before all that, when he was with Chow. He realized that there was a lot of stuff that just was too traditional, you know, and things that just didn't work out now, didn't work, you know, on what was going on. You take guys that were fighting back in 1900s, and then you put them with Ali, put them with you know, these guys. I mean, they'd get destroyed, you know. So it's an evolution. Certainly it's an evolution, but Parker realized that he needed to update the methods because the attacks are different, you know, and guys were, and you know, it evolved in the 60s, it evolved more in the 70s, it evolved in the 80s, you know, and you see a lot of guys like when I go to Europe and stuff, you know, there's guys in Ireland that still do traditional Kempo, and it's solid, you know, it's solid. It's very basic. You can see a lot of things that you could do, maybe tweak them a little bit, you know, but what they do it hard and strong, and it's, you know, but you can see the evolution of that, just like that, you know, circling the horizon, these different things that he did along the way, and either you went along with that and wanted to, you know, go with that and or not, you know. Some people stayed doing the tradition, but it's not about, you know, if you want to do jiu-jitsu, do jiu-jitsu, you know. You want to do boxing, do boxing, you know. You want to do kali, you want to do stick and knife, do stick and knife, you know. But whatever I do a lot of all that stuff, but I always use the principles of Kempo in everything that I do, you know, and I Kempo-wise everything, you know, because I mean, there are solid principles and concepts that Parker exposed us to that, you know, I fight with Kali guys and do empty hand stuff, and I'm checking them out. I'm doing all kinds of stuff, and they're going, "What are you doing there, man?" So I'm just throwing some Kempo in there, you know. See, so, you know, one thing that probably one of the most interesting things that I can go to any school, and I think if you understand Kempo, you can go to any style, any system, and immediately identify what they're doing. See, they can't do that if they come into a Kempo school. They can't see that. See, that's the beauty of that. That you know, we learn all of this stuff, and we understand the motion of all these things. Yeah. So we can in turn interpolate and interpret what the heck they're doing, and if I can understand what they're doing, I can form a defense against that.
Yeah, thank you for that. You actually said something like similar. Kempo principle will stay in the same fashion in any art, and we can improve, but we cannot improve gravity, because our principles are based on physics. Thanks for that approach. That was I was waiting for. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. You know, guys, I mean, just because I studied with Ed Parker, you know, as did a lot of guys. So did Larry, so did Frank, you know. You learn from, you know, Huck, these different guys, you know, different people that, I mean, there were so many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that Parker worked with, you know. It's, you know, expose yourself to everybody. Anybody that, you know, that does Kempo, you know, don't get stuck with one guy. He only got it, and then there's guys that do it that have done it their own way and their own style. But I don't want to do somebody else's style. I want to do my own. I want to be myself. You know, just because I study with a master doesn't make me a master. The art's going to come from me. It's not going to come from them.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Thanks for both. Thanks both.
Yeah, real quick. Just gonna say one more time. It really is. I wish I knew as much about the history and the lineage, but just the individuals themselves, because hearing these stories is it's always enlightening. You know, to hear not just the stories, but the experiences that everybody's had. Sir, with all due respect, I want to thank you so much for coming on the program today. I really hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope you had a good time. It's always fun to share. So, sir, once again, thank you so much. And guys, thank you all for coming on today. Ben, Arms, K1, everybody, thank you so much. Sir, any closing remarks before we go?
No, just
keep it up.
Keep it up. What you guys said a long time ago, he was in jail. He got this guy put him up against the wall, and the guy said, "Be who you is and not who you ain't. Because if you is who you ain't who you is."
Yeah. How do we say goodbye and hello and goodbye? Aloha.
Aloha, guys. Thank you. Mahalo.
Mahalo, that's what it is. Mahalo. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys all soon. Oh, wait. I'm sorry, Mr. Higgins. One last thing. how do people get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you and maybe do Zoom lessons with you, seminars? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Stuff. I do Zoom, and yeah, if you want Facebook, Scott Higgins, Facebook. Also, Dogtown American Kempo International. That's kind of my club. Look me up on that. You know, so yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for helping them out. We appreciate you guys taking the time out of your morning to do this. And sorry, I hope we get to meet again in person someday.
Hope so.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Thank
Okay.
you. Take
See you
care.
guys. See you, Steve. See you, Ben.
Absolutely, Scott. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.